Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today and for joining and sitting and taking the backward step to shine your light within. Um, I want to give a talk, a very simple talk that draws on some work that's been going on at Appamada in the last several weeks that I think is really important. And I'm going to be joined in the talk by Rosemarie, who's one of the leaders of the group that I'm going to be talking about. You know, the what's called the first noble truth, or what Stephen Batchelor calls the first task in Buddhism, is recognizing that everything changes, and change causes us distress, and that we live our lives in reactivity to distress, and at the base of that is change, and that the question becomes, how do we react? How do we respond to change and to the feelings that arise within us when change happens? And there are lots of people in Appamada who have great training and great skill and the capacity to keep reminding people like me who react to change and distress by focusing on distress. These are people that have skill in what is formally called appreciative inquiry. That is the capacity and the willingness with skillful means to focus on what you want more of instead of what you don't want in your life, and how that's a lot more useful way of organizing a response to the future and a response to change that's happening right now than just focusing on what you don't want. So I really appreciate that. And there is my question to myself is, what do we want more of? What do I want more of when I think about Appamada? And that's more connection to friends on the path, and then to my own capacity for compassion, or to compassion, I would say, first of all, to developing that capacity within myself, recognizing it in others, and then turning it into action. and to have a way of moving through life that is based in gratitude and in appreciation and compassion, and finding ways to connect with people. And that puts me in mind of what Stephen Batchelor, one of my favorite Buddhist writers, calls the everyday sublime. And I have a little piece, just a couple of paragraphs from him, describing what he calls the everyday sublime. It says, the experience of the sublime exceeds our capacity for representation. And he says, many of the Buddha's teachings, where the word noble is used, the word sublime could be substituted for it. And that the world, he says, is excessive. Every blade of grass, every ray of sun, every falling leaf is excessive. None of these things can be adequately captured in concepts, images, or words. They overreach us, spilling beyond the boundaries of thought. Their sublimity brings the thinking, calculating mind to a stop, leaving one speechless, overwhelmed with either wonder or terror, which is the way that sublime was used in the 18th century. Yet for the human animal who delights and revels in his or her place, who craves security, certainty, and consolation, the sublime is banished and forgotten. As a result, life is rendered opaque and flat. Each day is reduced to the repetition of familiar actions and events, which are blandly comforting, but devoid of any intensity that we yearn for and fear at the same time. We crave stimulation. We long for a temporary derangement of the senses. We seek opportunities to lose ourselves in rapture or intoxication. Yet once we have tasted such ecstasies, we often sink back with a sigh of relief into the dullness of routine. What Stephen Batchelor is pointing to is that this sublimity is available to us every moment, in every action that we take, in everything we see or perceive in any way, and that we can know we are connected with these things, even though we transform the signals that we get into the background noise of our lives. And there's long been study and work and activity around this issue in Zen practice, and it forms something that is very important to Dogen and to the Chinese Chan masters who preceded Dogen, and that is a way to connect our work, our activities in the world, our relationships with other people, in our minds and in our bodies with the practice that we do when we sit down. And as we sit down, we take the backward step and we shine our light within. We have the capacity to do that, to flip that inside out and to shine our light into the world with appreciation and gratitude through our work. So it happens that there is a group of people whom I've highlighted in a couple of emails that I've sent to the councils at Appamada, but not so much to our whole sangha. But but there's people who are working on ways to connect our sitting practice with work practice, and there are traditional words for this. There's the care of the temple, which is called soji, cleaning the temple and caring for it. And there's work that's called samu, which is mindful work that we do in the world, and finding ways to transform the activities in our daily lives into practice, which I think is absolutely crucial for establishing connections at Appamada in new ways, and for enlivening practice for all of us. So I'm really grateful to Rosemary and Nelda and Kim and others in this group. So I'm going to ask Rosemary if she would talk some. Well, I already asked her, but Rosemary is going to talk some about her just what came to her, how the process by which she became interested in and chose to take action in forming this group, and what she hopes for the future with it. So, Rosemary, I hope you're unmuted. Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you, Joel. Hi, everybody. And so, as Joel said, recently a few Sangha members, including Joel, Kim, Marla, Stephanie, Nelda, Connie, and I have been meeting and exploring work as a devotional practice, or work, as we say, as Appamada, mindful energetic care. So everything from the physical space of the Zendo in Austin to the spaces in our homes, communities, and workplaces around the world, as we have a worldwide Sangha right now. So you may know these practices, as Joel just said, as Soji, meaning the cleaning of the temple or the Zendo, and Samu, meaning work practice. So my interest in exploring these two came directly from two sources. The first was during a work practice in an intensive, and it was actually the writing intensive earlier this year that Clayton and Judy facilitated. And what I discovered was, to my surprise, joy during the organizing of my desk drawer, which was a total mess and felt very overwhelming to me as something that I would approach on my own without this practice. And instruction for the work activity was for those in the Zendo to work together with supplies and sometimes together with another person, but in silence and with intention. And the same was for us at home. I proceeded to look at everything in there, take them out, and realize everything in here serves me and requires and deserves respect. I will say that the hour of work practice did not accomplish this, but eventually it did, and it has stayed that way. So that was a big aha moment for me. The second was in the sewing of the rakusu, which I needed to understand through my teachers, Anne and John, that this was a devotional practice. I'd sewn, most of my life and was very eager always to get to the thing I was making versus really finding certainly not a blessing in every stitch. So that was the second aha moment for me. And then in early October, Robin sent out an email inviting all of Appamada to join in a work practice to help Nelda to prepare for the window cleaner that was coming. A lot of preparation needed to be done before the window cleaner could do his or her job. And this was no ordinary email. Well, it was Robin, and she created a beautiful instruction to how to proceed with this work. And if, I hope that some of you don't clean your email boxes like I don't and still might have it, because it's really beautiful. It was sent, I believe, on October 2nd. So these two things kind of came together for me, and I started to think that, well, let me talk to some folks about it and maybe meet together. So we began to meet and came up with this working statement. So when we turn our thoughts to work as a devotional practice, carrying our practice of Zazen into daily tasks, they can be transformed into acts of compassion as we move in life with grace, gratitude, and appreciation, as we do in the Zendo. I want to ask you about the volume of my voice. Sometimes, I'm from New York. I just talk loud. So is it okay?
It's fine, Rosemary.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm in the Zendo, though.
Oh, in the Zendo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no complaints? All right, thank you. Okay, so yeah, and I was thinking as I wrote this about the grace, gratitude, and appreciation as we are in the Zendo, and how we move in our practice when we are practicing in a service with such grace and attention. And I was thinking with my desk drawer, I was thinking about the drawer that contains under the altar, that contains the supplies for the altar. And I've never seen inside that drawer, maybe when I went there the one time, but I don't think I did. But I can imagine that each object has a place, and it's always that place, and it fits the object, and it just appears to me, and I would imagine that everything's treated with a lot of respect. So in our thought was in collaboration with Appamada's teachers, councils, and other groups, that we aim to initiate a program to revitalize the study of Soji and Samu by cultivating in our community an awareness of work as a devotional practice, inviting everyone in the community to learn by reading texts such as Dogen's Instructions for the Cook, and something else that I'm going to read a little excerpt of, something from Norman Fisher that I'll read a little excerpt for you in a minute. And providing easier access to volunteer opportunities, and that everyone in our community is invited. So we've been meeting weekly for about 6 weeks to explore what this program might be. We meet every Monday at 12:30 Central Time. It's on the Appamada calendar, and everyone in the community is invited to participate or to sit in. So I invite everyone here to, if you have an interest, to come at any time that it's on the calendar. Otherwise, stay tuned, because once this planning is done and we have approval from teachers, and we will send out an announcement through the Appamata Google groups, which is everyone. We want everyone to understand, what this is about. And if anyone has questions, you can email me. It's my name, rosemary.gates@yahoo.com. And I'd be happy to answer questions, or bring your questions or your feedback or your ideas to our group. So thanks for listening. And this is a little piece that Austin Zen Center wrote. It's on their website after a talk that Norman Fisher did there in 1996, I believe it was. I'm just going to read you a little excerpt from it. Yeah, this is a piece called Work Practice, but it was taken from a lecture by Soketsu Norman Fisher at Green Dragon Temple, May 5th, 1996. And I'm going to read the part of it called Work as Meditation. Work as meditation illustrates how work is just as important a time for mindfulness practice as sitting zazen or walking meditation. In work as meditation, there isn't too much need for thinking, planning, or conceptualizing. While effort is made to do what we are doing efficiently and beautifully, we needn't hurry or worry about how much is getting done. In not rushing to get the dishes washed or the carpets vacuumed, we have an opportunity to just appreciate the work for what it is, a thoroughgoing engagement with our life in the moment. Meditative work occurs when the work is very simple and repetitive, and one cultivates awareness of one's hands and feet, or of the tool as it moves, or the rhythm of movements in the work. Most physical work involves some sense of rhythm or timing. When one enters into the flow of the task at hand, working can be both efficient as well as very relaxed, entering into a deeper experience than our usual compulsive thinking about distractions or complaints. Work as meditation can also involve periodic pauses during the work as a way of grounding oneself, to reconnect with the breath, or to pause for a moment and return to the presence when the mind is wandering. It can help to utilize a mindfulness bell to bring us back to our focus. Just as in Zazen, you can be aware of your mind as you work and keep trying to bring it back to the body, breath, and the moment-by-moment work itself, even when there is no bell or no special pause. It is a time to observe and let go of the many attitudes, beliefs, and feelings that interfere with having a meaningful awareness of one's immediate experience, no matter what the task might be. Even a taste of work practice illustrates how the mind can wander off in thought just as readily while working as while sitting in meditation. Just as mental hindrances to wakefulness arise when one is seated in the meditation hall, so desire, aversion, dullness, restlessness, and doubt can hinder mindfulness and concentration during work. And just as one can overcome the hindrances of a wandering mind in seated meditation, so one can do while working. When one is focused on the work itself, with nothing extra, the mind becomes concentrated, calm, energetically still, and insightful. Can I have a volunteer online to continue?
I'd be willing to read. There are a few important ways to practice with this kind of work. One important way is by working in silence. When we work silently, we put ourselves more fully in touch with our actual working, with more clarity and energy. Silent work isn't strictly silent, as functional speech may be necessary, speaking out about the task, where we put something, where to get something, or how to do something. Functional speech means we don't have conversations or make social talk. There's a time for that too, but if we always chat when we work, we won't appreciate the depth of the work, and we also won't appreciate how wonderful it is to chat together. Continue. Another important practice can be found in bowing in and bowing out. Beginning work together intentionally, for example, with an incense offering and bow, helps to remind us that we're working together, even if we go off to different locations, and it helps to remind us that our work is an offering. Next is cleaning up and caring for our tools. If we do a flurry of work and don't leave time to care for our tools or clean up properly, we'll come back to work the next time and won't be able to begin well. Perhaps we'll end up having to look for something we've misplaced, or we'll have a sour feeling seeing such a mess. It's good to start each work session with our work area and tools in order. It's also important to have a sense of finishing something before we go on to the next thing. Even if we don't complete a task, we can try to bring it to a place that has a feeling of finishing. We have an opportunity to take a moment to consider where we have gotten to before moving on to something else. Rather than just dropping one task and flying off to something else, this includes proper care and maintenance of our tools. Joel, would you like to speak?
Thank you.
Let me find you here.
Rosemary, I have a photograph of the inside of the top drawer of the altar. One side of it. That's the tray with the materials for cheating. That's a horrible abuse of a Japanese word for cleaning the altar. But what is used to cheaten, there's you see a little ceramic cup with a little sifter on it, two white and black lacquer boxes. The white one contains stick incense, and the black one contains ashes that have been sifted out of the incense before, or actually sticks that have been sifted out of the ashes before that are burnt down and saved for later. And there's a couple of forks that are used for making patterns in the cups that are up on the altar that you can't see. And there's another tea strainer there that doesn't get used, but that's one thing. And there's a little bowl with some crumbled charcoal on it. We don't use the charcoal anymore to burn the sandalwood incense. Although it's lying out, we just put the incense on it and don't burn it because there's a lot more sensitivity to the smoke than there used to be. But anyway, those things I wanted to point out, and thank you for mentioning that. And I just thought, oh, I have a picture of that. I went around and I took pictures of insides of drawers and the insides of closets and other things at Appamada that I thought would be interesting for people online to be able to see. And it got used in a slideshow during Flint's talk that he gave in April or May of last year in 2022. So there's that. Well, I thank you so much for that, Rosemary. And that's what you're pointing to is really so important. And I have something else I want to add, which is what Norman Fisher describes seems like it may be solitary activity, but what he's describing is work in a monastery where you are working with other people. You're silent, but there's other people around, and you know that you are working at the same time as them with the same intention as they have to be working mindfully. And I think that's a crucial thing, and that's a real challenge for us. That so many of us are. I'm in Albuquerque. I know people are spread all over the place, and not everybody can go to the Zendo to be involved in Soji. But what I think is so important about the work of this committee, and will be important for the Sangha after the kind of, formation and brainstorming and rollout can happen, is ways to connect me in Albuquerque folding socks, oh, that tedious folding socks again, to be able to transform that activity into something that I'm grateful for, and to transform it into an activity where I can look into my own mind and see there's a young, restless part that is irritated by the thought of folding socks, and that I can hold that part in compassion and regard, and invite it to join me in this adult activity, those kinds of things. And I just think that we have a huge opportunity to make this a connector for all of us, even the most remote, even the most remote in time. I mean, we have people right now, it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in Hawaii, and it's late afternoon in England. And, there are many times when we have people connecting from like 10 or 12 different time zones for a particular meeting. One thing that happened recently that I think is just a wonderful example for me, and I'm thinking of it as something as a touchstone for the future, or as a kind of a trailhead for the future, and that I hope everybody will brainstorm with us about in time, is Ellen Hippert, known to many people here, who lives in Virginia, used to be in Austin, but is still a very important part of the Sangha, even though she's moved away to Virginia, recently did a personal retreat where she was sitting on her own in her home several times a day, and, just like not using any electronics, or very minimal electronics. And she was having a personal retreat. And I said, oh, that's so lovely. I wish I knew some way that I could connect with you while you're doing that. And I may not be sitting, but maybe it could help me wash the dishes more mindfully if I knew that you were sitting at that time, or, walk down the street more mindfully while you were sitting, so on. And she started sending me an emoji, a green heart, when she sat down. And it was so wonderful to know that I was connected with her, and that she knew that I would at least take a moment to pause, like Norman Fisher says, take a breath, recenter myself in my activities. And that was a wonderful thing. And I think that is just that's something that we can build on as a way of people in Austin connecting with people elsewhere, or, that I may be connected with Ellen or somebody in Minnesota or British Columbia or Hawaii, that we have these opportunities, and there are ways that we can get more of what we want at Appamada to close the gaps that we have among us and between us. So I said, any questions or reflections on that?
Very simple comment. Joel, love what you said about asking the irritated part of you folding socks to come and be a part of it also, instead of banishing him or being annoyed, like judging the judger. That was really helpful. And I really, Rosemary, love that you could embrace cleaning out your drawer, because for me, that is, cleaning anything out is a hugely judgmental, irritated experience. So thank y'all both for inviting me to just chill out and invite everything in. And it's a wonderful help to think of Soji in this way. So thanks for y'all's help with that. Joel,
may I make a quick comment? I think at least twice a month about something that is a great demonstration of what Suzuki Roshi called imperturbable composure. And that is the ability to fold a fitted sheet without throwing it out the window. So that's just my 2 cents.
Good morning, everyone. So I was sitting during the talk thinking about a task I have to do. I have to weed a gravel walkway that I've let go. And I was also thinking about cleaning my house and how I always see work in the house as something to get finished. So I really appreciated, Rosemary, you reading Norman Fisher's piece about, get to some place that seems like an organic end, but you don't have to finish. And I was thinking about maybe thinking of my work practice in terms of amount of time, as opposed to there's this task I have to finish completely before I stop. And that might help me be more intentional about my work, instead of just always being worried, oh, I can't start this because I won't finish it.
Thanks, Anne. And there's just something that I'm trying to get back to that I mentioned at the beginning, that everything in our lives is already a complete miracle, and that we just lose that. And there are moments of intensity in our lives that our practice can help us with, but this is an opportunity to help us to see the grace and the abundance and the excessiveness, the wonderfulness in everything that's around us all the time. And in a way, and what I think is so important about it is what everybody has been talking about and pointed to is the way that we can do it. We can connect with each other and help support each other in doing that. Becky?
Yeah, I want to thank you for the socks thing too. That was perfect. When I was young, and I'm guessing 12 or under, that we had a way in our household that things that were house tasks that were each person's things and so on work. And a couple of things that came to me as my work, one was amongst the 7 of us, 5 kids and 2 adults, I was the one who sorted the socks. And so that was one that I came to just love and tried to have my kids enjoy it as one of the games we played, on a regular basis. Is we'd have the socks were all like thrown into a pillowcase, and that we sorted them and folded them and so on. So thank you. It brought back some wonderful memories. I mean, my other one was that I was the one who got to iron my dad's handkerchiefs and white shirts for going to work. So, and that was something I was very proud of. But I'm mostly a person who I'm mostly a wild person. I'm not properly civilized about housekeeping or organization of things and so on. And yet I love to do it in certain areas. Like, I love having all of the desk things be, just so. I don't always do it. I often start by going around and collecting them from wherever I had used them all over the place I'm living in. But that's part of compassion and recognition of our own ways of doing things as well. So instead of being irritated with myself for having leaving them around when I was in the process of using them, I gather them with appreciation, and then sort them into where I want to find them again. So it doesn't have to be. I guess I'm just trying to say, for a lot of people, I think we get hung up on the precision of it, and that there's something wrong with us if we're not doing it right. And I just want to say there are other ways to live with who we really are and still have all of that, all of the end goal, if it were, that we can still have that. So as long as we do it intentionally and lovingly with ourselves and with others when we're working with others.
Thank you, Becky. I have a question I want to ask you before we hear from Darcy and Suzanne. And that is, so you mentioned making a game with your children. How and that you were proud that you got to iron special items for your father. And I was the designated ironer among the children when I was a kid, and I still enjoy it. Except if I've letting it get over, stuff pile up to an overwhelming amount. You're describing a process of transformation, which I think is not very far away from what Norman Fisher was describing, or Dogen describes, of how to transform work from something that is background noise, or worse, something that you want to avoid, into something that you can approach with pleasure, or even joy, or even appreciation for the whole universe. How did you do that with your children?
Well, it was we sat in a circle and dumped the pillowcase full of the clean ones onto something that was on the floor, and that we would just and sometimes it was a matter of, like, some people like to start with how big are they. Most of the time, what colors something was the pre-sorting, right? And that sort of thing, and that we would laugh when something didn't happen exactly the way we meant for it to. And so that meant that the kids sometimes would intentionally do that so that we could have a laugh, and so, yeah, it was not something that had stress, or that the whole pillowcase didn't have to even get done within the time we were doing it. And we always had the odd ones, and so they were the starter thing in the pillowcase for next time, because often they show up again.
I want to say goodbye to Eric. Thank you so much for being here, Eric. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to see you longer. And have a great day. He says, I have a message. I have to log off for now. Today is house cleaning, laundry, organizing day, and this was the perfect discussion. Thank you, everybody. So that's great. Well, I hear within what Becky was describing something that is, we can be deadly serious about our practice, and we can just really make everything into a problem for ourselves, and go back and judge ourselves, and judge the judger, and judge the judger of the judger, and all of that. Becky is pointing to a way to smile, and to maybe do something wrong on purpose as a way of connecting with other people that you want to connect with. That I think that's something I need to write down for our group, Darcy?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to add that our focus on work practice, since Robin sort of organized around, I guess that was that intensive, and then helping prepare the Zendo for the window cleaning. So I took it home, and it's really changed it's changed my perspective on working with my husband. Because he's very task oriented, not like wanting to visit or chat or whatever. It's just like, and so I think in the past I would tend to want to just do something else, but not do a project with him, because I was clamoring for attention by chatting while we were working. And I think over the years it's just developed into this, separate thing. And I realized that I can do projects with him now when I approach it in this way, that it can be silent, except for functional speech. And we're, I feel this connection now, like we're together doing this project, and I'm not having this other expectation. So this whole developing of our work practice method has helped me in that way, and I thought I'd share that because it's really been fun.
That's great. Thank you so much, Darcy. And I just thinking about that, I'm thinking that it's important as we proceed through this new way of thinking about connecting our practice and connecting with each other through practice, that things get shared. What we need to do is set up essentially a blog where you could make a video statement or type up what you just said, and that so that people would be able to see how you have adopted this in your life and how this has had the effect of transforming an important part of a relationship. For yourself, for your own capability, and for someone that's dear to you. So thank you so much for saying that. Suzanne?
Thank you. I too loved what Robin wrote back in October. I, in fact, printed it out and put it on my desk so that I would be reminded of it all the time. And I tried it with gardening, which is a big task for me. I have a big garden, always have, and used to have a spouse that did a lot of that work, and as 2.5 years ago, don't have a spouse anymore. So, not that we divorced. Didn't sound, that sounded kind of casual. But I often get overwhelmed with it. And so I don't start at all. Who was it that said that? I think maybe it was Anne. And so then I just, every time I walk by my garden, I have to walk through it to get out the house. Then I feel bad, and I feel guilty. And I have all these tapes that go off in my head about, I'm not doing my job. I'm not taking care of things. But when I do start, I do have this task orientation for sure. I always have had that. I've always been driven to get things done. So after reading Robin's article, I tried just allotting an hour to it rather than, I used to go out and garden for 6 or 7 hours at a time. I can't do that anymore either because of getting older, but just for an hour and just pick the thing that called to me. Like, don't worry about the whole thing and the iris that need to be dug up and the dahlias that need to be pruned and all that. Just whatever I see that calls to me, and go take care of that. And to turn it into care rather than weeding. When Anne, when you said weeding the gravel patch, I thought, oh my God, weaving the gravel patch. I can totally relate to that. I would have a hard time. I'll come help you. That's a big, like, really thankless kind of job. But to turn it into sort of, to change it from, I have to get this done, to I'm taking care of life. I'm taking care of beauty. I'm showing concern for and care for the things around me that matter. And it helped me not get so distracted, because a lot of times when I get started on something, I'm like, oh, well, I've got to do this, and then I've got to do that. Oh, I forgot about that over there, and this over here, and it's like, and then I get overwhelmed and I get stuck. So, so it was a really great tool for that what Robin wrote to sort of help me do it just for a short period of time and just be present with what I was doing. And it was much, much more satisfying and healthy and happy, and I didn't come away annoyed. So I would love to hear more about this Monday group. So I will probably pop in with you guys and see what you're thinking about. But yeah, and I love your idea, Joel, of starting a blog or something with how we've used this and how what results it has had, or what we think we're learning from it, because I think it's the way to engage life. It's the way to really be present all the time. And who don't we all want that more than anything? So anyway, so thank you.
We all need it so much. We all need it so much.
Oh, and by the way, I used to say, and I'm going to change this now, is that whenever I go to see other people's gardens, all I see is the flowers. But when I look at mine, all I see is the weeds. And so I'm I'm trying to change that too. So thank you.
I used to work for the National Wildlife Federation, and they and colleagues there taught me to stop calling them weeds and begin to see them as native plants that are required by local wildlife. So that's another aspect. All right, well, we're coming close to the end of our time. Any other comments, or shall we close for today? I'm so grateful for this. Thank you so much. Oh, Rosemary, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated, well, everything that, I mean, I have a lot of notes here, but Becky, you're making this fun game with your children. And what it reminded me of is that for myself in particular, that when there are instructions, I can make this practice a self-improvement plan, and it's a practice edge for me. And so the idea of looking at working with more intention and more presence without the judgment part, and without the, oh, I could be doing everything better. You know, what you said, Becky, about the game really helped to open up the idea of an ideal does not have to trap you into it's only one way. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Again, what I totally agree with you on that, Rosemary, and that what strikes me is that, you know, in sorting socks, if you're with other people, you're doing much more than sorting the socks. You are also connecting with the people around you. And sometimes it can be beneficial to subvert the instructions to foster connection. And I love that. Thank you so much for that, Becky. And thanks again, Rosemary. Thank you, Anne, for being Doshi today. Thank you for being the timekeeper. Heather, I saw you step in and be the monitor for a while. Thank you so much for that. Everybody who's doing background tasks that so often don't get recognized at Appamada. Thanks to Marla for being our online monitor, and all the other folks who do background tasks like editing videos and getting them up on the web, and taking the garbage cans out on Fridays at Appamada and so on. Thank you, everyone, for all you bring to our practice.